The development history of the F-15 fighter stems from the failure of the U.S. Air Force in the North Vietnamese battlefield from 1965 to 1972. At that time, the U.S.'s main tactical air force was the F-4 Phantom. This is a long-range supersonic all-weather two-seat fighter bomber. However, when having to face light interceptor fighters, with agile capabilities, tight-turning dogfighting such as MiG-17 and especially MiG-21, many F-4S were shot down by such MiG fighters of the Vietnam People's Air Force. But right after the F-15 was mass-produced in 1973, it completely changed the U.S. military's air superiority and significantly enhanced NATO's air defense capabilities in case a crisis broke out in Europe. It has a very long range because the F-15 is equipped with 3 external fuel tanks that allow it to fly non-stop from the U.S. to Europe, at a distance of up to 4,800 kilometers without having to refuel. And this is considered one of the best jet fighters of the late 20th century. When the information reached the other side of the continent, the Soviet Union also hurriedly set up the Advanced Tactical Fighter PFI program to manufacture an aircraft that could match the new fighter of the US, which is the Su-27. But due to having to redo the design many times because accidents kept happening during the testing process. So until 1986, the Su-27 was mass-produced. Thus, during the Cold War, to be fair in evaluating, the Soviet Union at that time really did not have any fighter aircraft that was a worthy opponent of the F-15 in all criteria: maneuverability, ability to climb high, radar system, and even long-range weapons. Although put into service more than a decade after the F-15, in terms of aerodynamics, the Su-27 has a more perfect structure than the early F-15S. However, the United States has never stood idly by to wait for its super product to be surpassed by its rival. They quickly replaced and upgraded the F-15 with newer, more advanced versions. Washington officially announced the bold F-15X upgrade plan, the latest upgrade version of the F-15 family. The developer claims this upgraded aircraft is compatible with many existing and potential aircraft weapons. With the help of the new Amber weapon rack, it can carry 22 air-to-air missiles in one sortie. It can fly with 8 air-to-air missiles and 28 small-diameter bombs, or up to 7 heavy 907 kg bombs and 8 air-to-air missiles. In total, this fighter can carry nearly 14 tons of air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons. This version is updated with state-of-the-art avionics, fly-by-wire flight control system, advanced radar, and digital cockpit. The new material structure allows the F-15EX to operate continuously for 20,000 flight hours before maintenance is required, allowing it to serve for many decades. Meanwhile, this number in the F-15C/D version is 5,000 hours and increased to 8,000 hours in the F-15E, while the Russian Su-27 fighter jet only has a service life of about 2,000 flight hours. And especially, the F-15X's operating cost is also a factor that needs to be mentioned, as each of its flight hours costs only about $27,000, while this number in the F-35A is up to $44,000. With many features inherited from fifth-generation fighters like the F-35 and F-22, the F-15X can be considered a fighter aircraft that balances between cost, technology, and reliability. The F-15X first flight lasted 90 minutes on February 2, 2021, piloted by test pilot Matt Geese. The plane took off from Lambert International Airport in St. Louis, Missouri, USA. However, experts were also quick to point out that no matter how great a platform the F-15X has, it should not be seen as a replacement for other aircraft. The Pentagon has a viable way out when overly ambitious plans to grasp future technology have failed, forcing them to seek solutions from the old fighter generation. To put it bluntly, this fighter is just a temporary contingency solution. It's just a compromise. If you look closely, you can see that despite the improvements, the F-15X is still based on an airframe that is about 45 years old, and it is still a fourth-generation fighter even when equipped with new technologies and can be upgraded for many years to come. The F-15X completely lacks the stealth capabilities needed to operate effectively in the modern combat environment. They seem unlikely to survive against modern Russian and Chinese air defense and air-to-ground weapons if not suppressed or disabled first. With modern air defense systems like Russia's S-400 and S-500, F-15X squadrons will find it increasingly difficult to operate in conflict zones without risk. Even older weapons like North Korea's KN-06 surface-to-air missile system could threaten America's new fighter if not suppressed or disabled first. By the time most F-15EX become operational in the next decade, these design flaws will become increasingly apparent. The purchase of fourth-generation fighters is seen as an economically and militarily inefficient investment in an increasingly obsolete vehicle for the U.S. Air Force. According to a report released by the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies, given the potential threats from Russia and China, the best thing the U.S. Air Force should do is abandon plans to revive the fourth generation under the F-15EX program, and instead focus more on further equipping the F-35A and moving towards the next generation. Many old platforms like the B-52 Stratofortress can be continuously upgraded, and by the time the last Cold War bomber is retired, it may have been operational for up to 100 years. But the role of a bomber is very different from that of an attack fighter jet, which needs to be fast, agile, and avoid obsolescence. In the case of the F-35, it also has low observability. After all, this is a stealth fighter, and that's why going back to fourth-generation fighters makes no sense. Heather R. Penny, a senior fellow at the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies, warned that the United States should not save money by investing in older technology, nor would it be appropriate to address threats from adversaries. Increasing investment in the F-35 is the best solution, however. Washington should not put all eggs in one basket. The best and truly sensible choice for the U.S. Air Force is to accelerate the F-35, while the U.S. military should still actively pursue a sixth-generation aircraft, something their Russian and Chinese rivals are also striving for. Ms. Penny called on the Air Force to withdraw the F-15X, while allowing the old F-15S and A-10 Warthogs to be replaced by the F-35 on a 1-1 basis. To fill the gap, Washington will need to extend the service life of the fourth-generation F-16 Fighting Falcon fighter jets while retaining and modernizing the F-22 until the new aircraft procurement program in the 2030s is approved. This plan may be a bit unrealistic and lack confidence in America's defense industry capabilities, but in May 2021, the F-15X failed to complete its mission and was shot down by opposing forces during an adversary exercise in Alaska. There are no detailed reports of the engagement, but the test showed the stark reality that the fighter is not yet ready to replace the F-22 during the transition period, as expected by the U.S. Department of Defense. In any case, according to the latest reports, the U.S. Air Force plans to buy at least 144 F-15Xs to replace aging F-15C/D fighters that have an average age of 37 years and are under pressure to reduce staffing. The first 8 orders were placed in July 2020, with a total contract value of no more than $1.2 billion. All of these fighters will be delivered to Eglin Air Force Base in fiscal year 2023. The second batch of F-15EXs is expected to be delivered to the Air National Guard Base in Kingsley, Oregon, in fiscal 2024, which will also become the F-15EX training base. The third batch will be delivered to the base of the Oregon Air National Guard in Portland in fiscal 2025.